right now.
Thank you. Welcome to all you guys who've tuned in. Thank you for doing this. You honor us by being a part of it. And if you tried last night, I apologize. We weren't online. So we're going to take a little extra time tonight, maybe up till 10 or 11 o'clock. And pick it up. Let me back to this. What was apparent in watching you guys deal with her is that a lot of us who do this all the time. I've pastored places where we had homeless, broken people every single day, and you get the stories all sound the same, and you get a little jaded. And what I was so grateful for is y'all just took her at her word, and you just ministered to her without trying to say, I wonder what part of this story is true or what part's not. And I don't want to go on and on, but I'm just really proud of you. You really ministered to her, and can you imagine that night, this entire team praying for her?
Entire building.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Not just our team, but good to see you, Shannon.
Good to see you.
It's just, I don't know how many I don't know how many people you have to have praying before God pays attention. I'm pretty sure that one would do, but listen, despite the fact that one would do, God has somehow in His spiritual economy created a difference between 1 and 150, and He responds to more than one people. When it's just incredible. Okay, general impressions for the next minute or so. What have you discovered? What do you feel? What do you think about deployment?
And please speak loud because it's difficult.
Yeah, this is one of the upgrades we're working on. We've had some complaints from people watching online who can't hear you, so speak loudly. Somebody, general impressions. What do you think about deployment? What have you experienced? Besides the things you wrote in your books, but what do you think? Anybody?
I talked to one of the chaplains just before we had dinner tonight, and I said, I don't know what's wrong with you. I've never felt like this before. And I explained what all happened today, and she gets this big smile on her face. She says, yeah, it's usually the end of the week, but she says you're full. She says you're absolutely full and you're glowing.
Yeah. It's pretty amazing, isn't it?
It's
Wednesday, Thursday.
Yeah, it's usually Thursday.
yeah.
But I don't know whether this has occurred to you, but does it not seem like it's Wednesday? Does it seem, usually by Wednesday.
It's Wednesday.
No, I don't mean that. Usually by Wednesday, we're thinking, wow, this has been a long week, but this has just gone just like that. It's just beginning, and I don't know why that is. In part, maybe because it hasn't been really cold, but I don't know.
Or hot.
Or you just woke up.
Or maybe I just woke up. Somebody else, just general impressions. Yeah.
I guess I have caught myself a couple of times this week, and I don't remember if I did it before, but I probably did. Sometimes when you explain the situation that we're going to, where we're going to work, I sometimes kind of form little opinions in my own mind, and thankfully I don't usually share them with people, but I have them running through my mind, and it just seems like more and more they're just like so blown out of my mind when we meet the people. Like, for instance, we were going to go pack this morning. Okay, we're going to help pack some for someone. Oh, this woman just turns out to be the sweetest person you could meet. And, yesterday when we went to Mary Ellen's house, I just was kind of neutral in that. And then we get there, and she just turned out to be such a sweet person who really needed some fellowship and talking and just to kind of, I think, talk and interact with people and stuff. And I don't need to go through all of them, but it's just, it's kind of helped me to be a little bit more aware of that, and I want to be careful about that, and just really just wait and see with an expectant attitude about what God has for us to do. We've seen several examples of how good it can, and I'm really trying to keep a good attitude about this whole mud out thing.
It's fun, isn't it?
No, not really.
let me just set your mind at ease. This is not really a mud house.
That's what
That's
made me
right.
feel much better.
Huh? You should feel a whole lot better.
Okay.
There's no mud involved. That's exactly right. That's right. Well, you know, the reason that I give you a little bit of a heads up is not to prejudice you or to create some kind of false impression or expectation. It's just I'd like you to know a little bit about what we're going into. And the cool thing about it is that you guys have just really picked up on it. I say this by way of confession, which I know and Leslie knows, and some of you have been around me enough. I'm not very much of a warm fuzzy person, and you guys have just made up for that. I mean, I can hug her and tell her how great it is, but to watch you guys with these homeowners and the people we work for, it just warms my heart to see how you can break down barriers. And for me, it's just, it doesn't come natural or easy, and I just applaud you for that. You are an amazing team that has done incredible things, and your reward, if God has a refrigerator, your name has been put on that refrigerator this week, I can tell you. Somebody else, general impressions. Just general impressions.
I'm blown away by the need. There's just so much need.
Yeah.
You just see your families and driving around and looking at the destruction. It's just like, wow, Lord, we need to come back soon.
There are still, as of today, I think there were 667 homeowners untouched. Just work orders, yeah.
And that's just the ones that asked for it.
And that's just the ones that asked for it, yeah,
Because they turned it off.
because they shut it off.
Right, and that's the thing that saddened me the other night, somebody had gotten up and shared about, they were at the homeowners and the neighbor came over and, wanted to know, how to get a hold of Samaritan's Purse, how to get, and so they gave them Samaritan's Purse information, and, they're not accepting any more orders. And it saddened me to realize there's thousands of them out there still.
Yep.
That aren't gonna get any help from
Yeah.
Samaritan's Purse, or FEMA. FEMA's not gonna be here long, and,
No, but there's several other
it's a matter of time, and
organizations.
they're all gonna be gone.
But they're not
They're all,
Yeah, they're all gonna
anything
be gone.
like this.
they're gonna
And
be on their own.
There's a resource list.
there is, yeah,
You should have one in your book, and if you don't, we'll get you one.
I'm not sure that they said I do, and so I probably do, but I haven't seen it. But we had that happen. Tisa was talking to Stan next door to Catherine, and he came over specifically to say, how could I get help? And of course, Tisa had not had that experience before, so she called me over, and I just have to, you want to just cry for him and say, I'm sorry, there just isn't anything we can do. But we did point to some resources that we knew about, and he'll be fine. He has some financial resources, but I don't know if you know this. Did you guys talk today to Stacy about the house we were working on this afternoon, her mother's house? You know the situation with that? Zero insurance. FEMA gave her $2,000 and told her to live in it.
Oh, my.
And if you saw when I pulled down that drywall ceiling, it was double thick, water still between it, and active mold in the ceiling, and you saw it all in the floor, or
And
in
the
the
back
walls, huh?
And the back wall separated from the house completely.
And, yeah, but the point that I'm making is that $2,000 will be all she gets.
Wow.
That's it. And fortunately, Stacy, her daughter, attends, I think, a relatively large Assemblies of God church here, and they're gonna come and do some of the work for her.
Somebody from Tampa, a contractor from Tampa.
A contractor from Tampa through her local church, and, but, I mean, there are those kinds of resources out there, but can you just imagine? Here's a mother probably, I'm guessing, in her seventies.
She's 60, she was younger than me.
Well, who isn't?
68, I think she's 68, 67.
But anyway, imagine that.
Serious.
All the money that she's gonna get is $2,000.
That's sad.
And her name is Legion. There are thousands of people just like that, and it just goes in you like a dagger. You think, okay, I'm meeting one of them,
Right.
but they're just everywhere. Somebody else, just general
I
impressions.
kinda got a feeling that it's gonna come back alive for some reason.
That what?
Gonna come back alive, the need here. I noticed at home, on the news media, they're doing big stories on it, and right back in Pinellas County, and some of them in Central Florida. And with the news come over to our place today, and I think that started from a Facebook post that got around, and they're there within 3 or 4 hours, and they're coming tomorrow.
Great.
So maybe that huge need, which is still out there, is huge.
Maybe it'll be restored. This is a good
Keep talking about
opportunity.
it.
Listen to me closely about this. If any news organization walks up to you and asks you for comment, or if they can interview you, the answer is, I do not have permission to speak to you. See my team lead, and my response is, we don't have permission to do this. And Seven did exactly the right thing. He contacted, I think, Keith,
Keith, as they were, when they
and,
got back.
and you have to have permission before you give any, I mean, any statement to any news organization or anybody that wants to interview you. There are a number of reasons for that, but, you know, Franklin is responsible for this entire project. He's responsible for the impression that Samaritan's Purse makes, and he doesn't need us out here expressing our opinions in any kind of multiple media place. So, they typically do this, and you know, we think it would be a great opportunity to get publicity for Samaritan's Purse. Don't do it. You cannot speak for Samaritan's Purse, period. And funnel all of those to me, or if Seven's around, to a team lead, and our response is gonna be the same we would ask of you. I'm sorry, we don't make those statements. And so what's gonna happen with him, which is a really cool thing, is that the news media is coming back tomorrow, but SB is gonna send a representative from here who will be on site, who will supervise what's said and done, and that's the way it should be, okay?
That's how it seems, we'll see how it works out. But he said he'll send somebody else.
Yeah, we'll see. All right, anybody else, general impressions?
We were able to get a hold of Stan. I gave her the list, the resource
Oh,
list,
I
and she,
tried to get it through to him, and I don't have like a return number, it's kind of a weird
Ask me,
deal.
oh, I don't have a number for him
So,
either, but
I
you
was
could
thinking
probably
maybe
give
we
it
could
through
draw
Catherine.
a letter to him or something.
If I have contact, I'll send it to him.
That would be great.
Do you have his information?
I have his name, but I don't have anything other than that, like.
The opportunity.
His phone number, he texts the pictures to me, but it doesn't come with the phone number, it's weird, I don't know.
Never seen that.
I know, I haven't either.
Any event, the funnel or conduit may be through Catherine.
yeah.
We could probably get his information through her. And I don't know that I've told any of you this, but one of the things we're doing with Beyond the Storm this time is that we are intentionally staying in contact with all the people that we have worked for. I didn't ask permission, and so don't tell anybody I'm doing this, but I've taken a photograph of all the work orders that we've worked on, and we will be in contact with everybody, probably at least monthly for the next few months, and then beyond that, we'll see what happens. But we just really believe that you guys have made an impression in people's lives, but we don't want them to think they're forgotten just because we drive out of town. So if any of you want follow-up information, I'll be happy to share a phone number. I don't have email addresses, but I have their phone numbers. Most of what I have are cell phone numbers, so you could text if you want. So you could follow up.
You have their home address also
Uh-huh.
that we can use?
Yep, yeah, it's on the work order. I have a photocopy on my phone of all the work orders that we've worked on. And the people that I won't have are guys like Stan who came
Right.
over, but I'm sure Catherine would be happy
Okay.
to be a conduit for that, so. Any other general impressions? Yeah.
I just wanna thank you for allowing me to be part of the team. Since I've been doing Samaritan's Purse, they've made Leroy and I assessors, and we've been doing it for almost 3 years. And so I don't get to be part of a team, so Leroy and I were the team for almost 3 years. And so it's just so wonderful to be on a team and feel, and know what that feels like again. We got to do it every now and then, but it's just beautiful to be part of the team, so thank you all very much.
And you are a treasured part of it, you really, really are. The more you get to know, it's a little harder for you to get to know Leroy in his current role. It's just, you don't interact with him that much. We previously interacted with them as blue shirts, and but the more you get to know them, the more you will love them and look forward to the opportunity to serve with them again. It's a treasure having you here. I really mean that. Anybody else? General impression? All right, if you'll turn to page
Yes.
6. I'm sorry. Yeah.
I'm trying to make it brief.
Oh, yeah,
So what I see, Panama City, all the businesses have been hit, all the homes have been hit. There's hardly any property that's been untouched unless it's, very, very, very new. And every homeowner, if you drill down in their life, not like drill, but you just ask about how are you holding up? Well, I'm a breast cancer survivor. And this, my son just died. I lost my job. He's divorcing me now.
Yep.
You know, the stories are unbelievable. And so every property, every home has issues that are unfathomable by themselves.
Right.
And then you throw a storm in there.
Yes.
So they lose their home and they lose all their stuff, all the paychecks that they collect go into the home. Now we take all this stuff and we put it on the street. And it's just mind-boggling to me how much stress there is in people's lives to begin with.
Yes.
And then you have a storm.
Yes.
And it's unbelievable. So the fact that they're holding up and then they're joyful when they see us. And you get unsolicited hugs just because they're happy to see us and we're helping them. It's emotionally unbelievable.
You know what the takeaway from this is? This is a microcosm of the world we live in America.
Exactly.
The storm.
And even with what the storm has done is given us a door into their lives.
Yes.
What you're hearing about their lives wasn't created by the storm. It was there before. They're suffering from cancer. Their son is in prison, or their husband has walked away. I mean, this is the life. I mean, doesn't it make you realize, I am so grateful that I came to know Jesus Christ.
Yes.
Because the only difference between you and them is not that you make more money. It's not that you are not suffering from brokenness, because we are. Only difference is Jesus Christ.
We know where to take it.
We know where to take it. And in fact, if you pay attention to the scripture we read tonight, the reality is, why are we so hesitant to tap into the resource that's ours in Christ? And why does it take us deploying to a storm to realize how blessed we are in Christ? This happens every time we go on a deployment, and then you go back home and you forget. And so the next low crisis that occurs in our life, I'm thinking, what do I do now? Well, of course we know what to do now. We just don't realize it. So, thank you. That is true. I mean, you look at everybody we've worked for. Their lives were in shambles before the storm ever hits. And this just, we haven't heard it yet. There hasn't been a lot of homeowner interaction at share time. We do hear that it almost always is that this storm is the best thing that happened to me because I finally realized there's a hope, there's life for me.
Yep.
You haven't heard it much, but I guarantee you that every person we've worked for, even those who knew Christ, when we drove away, because of you, their grip on God is stronger than it was when we came.
Just plant the seed.
It's not even planting the seed, it's kinda like you took their hands and you manually handed that hand to a living Christ.
Right.
That's just cool. I think I shared with you the John chapter 4 passage early in the week when the lady went out and met Jesus at the well, and she goes back into town and she tells everybody, you need to come and see this guy. And it says that the entire town went to see Jesus because of her testimony. But after they saw Jesus, it says now they believed in him because they saw him. Here's what happened. There are some people this week, Mary Ellen being one of them, I believe. You had an opportunity to say, this Christ is real. And when you leave, she may have initially embraced him at some level because of what you said, but when you drive away, she's gonna say, now I trust in him because I've seen him. Pretty impressive. Somebody else. Okay, let's look at Psalm 33. I love this passage. If we had time, we'd go back and do the one from last night, but we don't. What jumps off of the page in the verses 12 through 22 for tonight? It just jumps off of the page. Wednesday, so on page 60 and 61.
He made their, 15, he made their hearts, so he understands everything they do. If we kind of made differently, he may understand why we do things certain ways. It's kind of came out that way thinking about it. If from his throne he observes all who live on earth, he's kind of mind-boggling to see all that we're doing. He knows what every hand is doing.
You ever get the feeling that you really need to explain to God so he has a better idea of what's going on? Ever had that idea? I mean, you ever thought? In fact, if you look at our prayer, listen to our prayer. Most of our prayers are giving God information that we're pretty sure he doesn't have.
He might have missed something.
Huh?
He might have missed
He
something.
might have missed something. And what does verse 15 say? He made your heart so he understands everything you do. Everything. Everything. Pretty impressive. Somebody else.
I think we tend to.
Pretty impressive. Somebody else.
I think we tend to see joy, individual joy. But if there's a nation whose God is the Lord, bless God is the Lord, bless the Lord. This one said, what joy for the nation,
Yeah.
whose God is the Lord.
Mhm.
But it's the nation, and so we individualize things. But as we see right here in this deployment, that right here in this deployment, that Christians lost their home.
Yeah.
Christians struggle. Christians go through the storm.
Yeah.
But the joy is for the people when they can come together, when we can be our people, when they can come together, when we can be our brothers' keeper, when we can help them. You know, I personally am thinking about the difference that in churches today, I'm sure there are many churches who could donate money to, I'm sure there are many churches who could donate money to build a home for some of these people in any of these cities that are suffering. And you know, we say FEMA only gives $2,000. We have Puerto Rico still recuperating, St. Thomas, St. Croix, we have the Carolinas, we have the Carolinas, we have Texas, we have the bio here in California. We have all of these things. You know that the government was not the one who started the social services. That was the church. But we have sublet it to the government. to the government.
Amen.
And the first thing,
Amen.
and the first thing we say is, what's the government doing? What's FEMA doing?
Amen.
You know, FEMA can do so much and no more. And imagine, a parachurch organization has to come now and clean, and most of our churches has to come now and clean, and most of our churches go on with business as usual. And, you know, it's the nation of believers, you know, in Jesus Christ.
And you are absolutely right. And you may or may not know this, but you're right. And you may or may not know this, but it typically is 6 to 8 months after the last, after they close up camp. Samaritan's Purse will be back here. They will be building homes. When Leslie and I toured Joplin after homes, when Leslie and I toured Joplin after Samaritan's Purse pulled out of there, we toured it about a year later, and Samaritan's Purse had built over 100 homes and given them to homeowners totally debt-free. I mean, they just totally debt-free. I mean, they just built the homes, and so this is what the kingdom ought to look like. This is what it ought to look like. Our problem is that, and I'm a pastor, so I know what this is like. We just get so wrapped up in building our own, so I know what this is like. We just get so wrapped up in building our own little bitty kingdom that we forget that there are people. And I understand that we take care of the household of faith and all of that. But not many of the people we've worked for have connections. We've worked for have connections to a church, despite the fact that they profess to have a connection with Christ. And so anyway,
But like you said yesterday or day before, when we were at the homeowners, we were cleaning all those trees up. That a lot of these people had nothing before the storm, and now they have less than nothing.
Right.
they do. They really do.
That's incredible.
But listen, here's the thing that I think we fail to grasp. We go to Gail's house, and I don't know about you, but that's a sickening situation. It's sickening about you, but that's a sickening situation. It's sickening because number one, it's mold. But you guys know this better than me. You talk to her. She's been staying with her sister, and they've been fighting day and night since she moved in with her sister. And the reason the reason that we are packing up her stuff is because she has to get out of her sister's house, and she's got this little apartment or a little house in an assisted living or in a community. But the reason she's there is because she can't get along with her sister. And you realize you did something for her that literally connected her to Jesus Christ. And what is more valuable to Gail? Had we come in with $2,000 or $10,000 and we said, okay, listen, we're gonna go pay the first and last month rent for you, and we're gonna go pay the first and last month rent for you, and we're gonna make your utility deposit, or convince her, hey, how are you? That was Megan, who's taking John's place at Drive a Mechanic. What if you and I really believed that you were doing not just a good thing, But the most important thing that could be done, most important thing that could be done
Amen.
for these homeowners,
Amen.
for these homeowners.
Amen.
What if you believed that? We wouldn't walk away with a sense of how hopeless it is. We would walk away saying, I've just been instrumental in giving Tricia on Monday and Mary Ellen yesterday and Gail this morning and even Stacy this afternoon. You've given them Stacy this afternoon. You've given them the best thing that anybody could ever give us.
Hallelujah.
And think about it, had we not come, not that we're better than anybody else, but there would have been less of anybody else, but there would have been less of that had we not touched these people.
Right.
I think we don't really grasp that what you did this week already is not just a Band-Aid. Is not just a Band-Aid. You have taught them to fish. That's amazing. Isn't it? Somebody else. Page 60, 61. What jumps off the page at you? Verse 18.
But the Lord watches over those who fear him, those who rely on his unfailing love. He rescues them from death and keeps them alive in times of famine.
Yeah. Isn't that cool? You probably have figured this out about me in just the few nights that we've met. But what I like to do is go through and circle. In fact, I go through and circle and number the things that God does for us in these passages. And look at it. In verse 18, he watches over. In verse 19, he rescues. In verse 19, he keeps them. In verse 20, he's our help. He's our shield. In one passage of scripture, he virtually has described a God who does everything that you could ever want, right? Is it? Look at what's left over that it doesn't mention when we look at the list. He watches over, he rescues, he keeps alive, he helps, he shields. That pretty much covers what you need, isn't it?
He surrounds us.
Mm-hmm.
That stuck out to me.
Yeah, and verse 22, he surrounds us. That's that bubble we were in the other night while you were in the hospital. Somebody else, what did you take away from this passage of scripture? Anybody?
Speaking about what you said earlier, the very first one, he is chosen.
Chosen.
He's chosen us. Every one of us has been chosen to be here at this appointed time. Just like all these other God moments we've been hearing about all week.
Absolutely.
Every one of us has been chosen to be here for a reason, for a purpose.
You know, you guys have all come from some of you from very broken backgrounds. But do you realize that you had, I know you do, you had absolutely nothing to do with the fact that you were born in America, where God is available to you. You had nothing to do with the fact that you were not born in a third world country that hasn't even received the gospel. All of this stuff that we're talking about has been a chosen factor in your life. Don't take this personal, but I wouldn't have chosen you.
Thank you for that honor.
Yeah. But you wouldn't have chosen me. I mean, the reality is,
That goes without saying.
Such love.
but here's the point I'm making. Who of us, prior to our birth, would have merited being chosen?
None.
None. And yet, he put me in a place where it was hard to not notice a Christ. Some of you didn't come to him till later in your life, but when you needed him, you didn't have to wait for a missionary to come from some faraway country. He was here for you. That's the chosen factor. You know what? When you go to bed tonight, and Paul writes it to the Ephesians probably more clearly even than the psalmist has. When you go to bed tonight, your last word ought to be, I am amazed that you chose me.
Yeah.
I'm amazed that you chose me. Somebody else, what did you find here? This passage. Lay it out.
Unfailing love again,
Unfailing love.
a couple times.
Two recurring themes in all the passages.
Yes.
You find joy over and over in everything we've read this week. Over and over.
Unfailing love.
And unfailing love. Over and over and over and over. You kind of get the feeling that God really loves you with unfailing love, don't you?
Amen.
And you notice that in almost all of these passages, there is a contrast. The psalmist sets the scene. You can't do this on your own. What does he say, verse 16?
Yeah.
Even if you had the best equipped army, you couldn't win this battle. He says, you can't do this on your own. And then he ends up dumping in the fact, but I chose you to give you joy and to do all these things, to watch over and rescue and keep you and all the things. Somebody else? Anybody? What did you gain from this?
Just a little bit about that. I still go back to when our team was first together, and like we're women. Majority of women this time. And
Most people.
yeah, and that is different. But wow, just maybe so, but like even today when her chain broke, had I been standing out there, her chain would have still been broke, which, I'm like, there was, even though how many women, he was there.
Yeah.
And I just, I just picture God sometimes up there, like smiling, like, yeah, I told you, like, you
I
need
was
to
sending
listen.
them your way.
Yes, like,
Look.
it just is.
Let me put it another
Wait,
way.
shoot.
What single job have we needed to do this week that we did not have somebody to do? Not
Nothing.
one thing has gone undone because, and please, I say this jokingly, I really mean it jokingly, but we didn't have too many women to do any job we need. We didn't have too few men to do any job we need. God forbid that Shannon had gotten in touch with any one of us as guys, we wouldn't have been able to drill into her heart. What amazes me is that, and I agonize over it because I'm seeing big trees. Before the team comes together, I'm seeing big trees and I'm seeing all that stuff. And our biggest problems haven't been big trees. They've been big broken hearts, big broken lives. And we've had exactly what we needed. And you kind of get the feeling God knows that.
I wonder if this had been a team of all men, if we would have seen the same thing
It wouldn't,
happening
I don't think it would
this
have happened.
afternoon with Shannon.
It wouldn't have happened.
It wouldn't have happened.
We don't have the cream in our.
No, no.
No, I left my balm at home. It wasn't in my shower kit.
No, but it would have appeared a whole different way.
Yeah.
It would. Because it would have appeared like men were trying to,
And-
wanting something from her.
Yes,
Yes.
exactly
Again.
right.
Tell
Yeah.
again.
She would have not opened up, and the
So
difference
thank God
between.
for this team of women.
I literally, every single day this week, I have thanked God for you, because we're fixers, and our first response to Shannon would be,
Fix the chain.
let's let's get the chain fixed and fix your life. What on earth is wrong with you? Why are you letting this, and you guys, you just loved her, and I'm
But you know, when I first stood up tonight, I mentioned that what we had in our arsenal of people was primarily women. Our arsenal, I mean, it's huge. Because it is an arsenal. As individuals, none of us can do much. But it's like we're a group of ants and we're just all jumping on the project. And before you know it, it's done.
and some of you are fire ants, and some of you are.
So she just said.
Really?
Got the bite.
Yeah. When do you go home? Yeah. Oh, so Megan's not taking your place.
I was filling in for Megan.
Ah,
That's Tina.
good for you. Good.
So hopefully it'll a little smoother. Well, y'all pray not, pray for my nephew. He's 4 months old and fell out of the chair today and he's headed to the ER, so.
Can you come?
What?
Let's lay hands on you and pray while you're right by.
What happened?
What's his name?
Rez,
Rez?
Rez, R-E-Z, yes.
R.E.Z. Let's pray.
What happened?
He fell out of his little, oh, is it a bone thing?
Who?
Something he was sitting in fell out his head. We're into the ER now.
Father, we have learned to love John and appreciate him, and what I know, Dolores would know this, but when we were sitting here in this circle praying for Dolores, this sensitive heart and sensitive spirit stepped in and said, can I pray for Dolores? And led us, and I won't forget that. And now our brother has come saying, you know what, I have a need, and it is our absolute joy. You said that when 2 or 3 agreed about something, that it would move heaven in a way that just praying by ourselves wouldn't. We pray for Rez. I don't know what his issues are. You don't need instructions. You don't need us to define what the problem is or even define what the solution is. You said, trust me. Trust me. So tonight, we put Rez in your hands. I don't know his family. I don't know whether they are believers. I don't know whether they are trusting you. But do something in this situation that brings absolute glory to you, exalts Jesus Christ, and changes the trajectory of this life for this family, and give John a peace that God has it under control. Trusting you, thanking you for it. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thank y'all. You know, thank you.
Going back up?
All right, just a couple more. Anybody have anything in this passage that you haven't shared yet? What did you read? Anybody?
For our hope is in you alone.
What verse?
That's the very last one.
Very last verse. Our hope is in you alone.
And I'm thinking, of Shannon, and we did pray for her, we did come to agreement, but Christ is the only one that can restore her. That's her only hope, and we pointed her to him.
But you know what? You really have to circle that phrase, in you alone.
In you alone.
I use this illustration a lot. Let me just give it to you because it came to mind. But a lot of people are like a black cup of coffee, okay? For those of us who don't like coffee, now you guys who like black coffee, this won't mean anything to you. But there are those of us who despise black coffee. And so, during a season of wilderness for me, I was on the road full-time, 24/7, 360 days, 5 days a year, and I had to learn to drink coffee. And so I figured out how you can drink coffee. If you take 4 of the little French vanilla things and put it in it, and 10 sweeteners, you can drink that.
That's not coffee, that's.
Now wait, but don't give me your opinion. Do you understand the thing? If you don't like coffee, add some sweetener and add creamer to it. And what you have is not coffee, but you have something that tastes better. A lot of people have a black coffee life, and they're trying to add Jesus to it to make it better. And what you have is not Jesus. You have a black coffee life adding Jesus to it. You want to know how to have a real life? Empty the cup of coffee and put something different in it. I'm not making sense to you. What Shannon needs is not to add Jesus to the miserable life she has. That's like trying to add sweetener to your black coffee. What Shannon needs is to empty her life of the life she's living and put something different in it. And that something different is Jesus. But here's the thing, a lot of us do the same thing. When you're having a hard time, you just try to get a little more Jesus, a little more Jesus. Well, and we're trying to pour him into a cup that's filled with a lot of bitter tasting stuff. Empty it out, because it's Christ alone, not Christ plus this or that or the other. It's really important. Anybody else? All right, page 62. What did you see today? What did you see today?
God's love showered on a homeless girl.
God's love showered on a homeless girl. Yeah. You did. Somebody else, what did you see?
God was at work.
God at work.
I see God using us in a way that was not the typical. And I see that when we went to Gabe, first, we never do rental properties.
That's right.
Secondly, we were only going to pack her stuff and put it on the truck if there was a truck. But we had to get the truck with her, help her get a truck.
Yeah.
Then somebody drove the truck. So we did so much for her because God cannot be put in a box. His ways are beyond us. And so you get up in the morning and you might have, I have people who check on everything they're going to do for the day. They write it down so they can check it off at the end of the day. But God doesn't do that way, because you might be going down that road and he said, go this way. You might get up, say you're going to do one thing, and he says, do something else. And I find people get frustrated, people get angry, they get bitter, because they're their own gods. They're making gods. And even, you don't know, God led us to Shannon, but there are times when people like Shannon are enabled because we will become God in their lives. We think we can fix them. We cannot fix anybody. We can't even fix us. But God alone can fix us. So when we pray, when we ask God, like the gentleman said, he always said, what do you want me to do? And that's why I prayed that while I walked away. I walked down the road and I said, Lord, what is my input in this situation? And I came back to her. I said, we have all prayed for you. Are you willing to pray now to ask God to deliver you? Because deliverance has to come from her.
Don't add sweetener to this miserable life.
You have to want it. We can, my Jamaican saying, you can lead us to water, but you can't force them to drink. You can set the food there, but you have to eat it. And so often, whether it's our children or spouse or parents, whatever, we have become God in people's lives because we don't let them trust God alone. There are parents who, as soon as the child wants something, they waste money, but you're going to give them the money. And you give them the money, then they don't know, depend on God, because they depend on you, because you have become God in their lives. So like we said, you're trusting God alone. And so I see how God uses us to show us that there's no box.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It really is. Cool. And don't let it be unnoticed that that in Kentucky, we say you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. That's a Kentucky, that just proves that you're Kentucky background. All right, somebody else.
Absolutely.
I'm just helping you, look. Hey, listen, was it lost on anybody that we came here to work this week and we had an indoor job for the half a day that it rained?
Yeah.
Somebody did say that this morning. How convenient it was that we had an indoor job when it rained, and now the
It
sun
wouldn't-
came
it
out and we
would-
were finished.
Wasn't one bit worse because it rained?
Yeah.
And by the time we were ready to work,
It was.
it was sunny and beautiful. That's
You
just,
just stole my God moment because that was it.
but then we'll pretend we didn't know it when you say it in a minute. Somebody else, what did you see today?
I was very humbled today. I worked on a house, with just a wonderful homeowner, a mobile home, that I wouldn't stay in it. My wife wouldn't stay in it. And, but this was a treasure to this lady, sweet Christian lady, prayed for us when we opened up prayer. She started praying, first person praying. Thankful for all she has. After the hurricane, the insurance didn't pay her anything, but they paid off her little mortgage on the trailer. Still pays a lot rent. But there's not an area that's not leaking, they're cutting out in each room, bad ceiling, bad walls, messed up roof terribly. But this is her treasure. And, you know, I redo houses, I do my house, I make them really, really nice, and, I just was humbled that I should never even, ever complain about a condition of situations that I may deal with in my home, or any home, but, she was just precious. Like, it was bad, it was, I could see through the walls, see under her mobile where I just had, over the years, she's gone through married 30 years, gone through a divorce, where she hang on to her house, worked 4 jobs at one time to get her last kid through college. She's 51 years old, and in a good relationship with a man, they're gonna get married, but, to see that condition, and trying to keep it clean, but that, and this, my team, just gave it their all to ensure she survived that, and it gave her hope. She started working on herself, but she got given up. She recalled it, last night. And, but I was humbled. And, I should never think God's heart's right.
It does kind of embarrass us, does it not, to realize the minor inconveniences in our little world that we complain about?
Amen.
When all these people, I mean, I look at the people that we've served and you've served, and I'm thinking, would I have joy? Knowing all I know about Christ, would I really have joy in their situations? And we applaud them for the fact that they do, some of them have joy. But I don't know whether we would.
I would hope I do.
I would hope so too. I would hope so too, but, you know me. Somebody else. Anybody, what did you see?
Love
Love?
with Miss Gail and with Shannon. Just love.
Anybody else, what'd you see? I don't know whether it registered, but today, I mean, we've seen a lot of bad houses, but people were still living in them. Today, we saw 2 totally uninhabitable houses. And as somebody said, there are thousands, totally uninhabitable. Somebody else. What did you see? All right, who'd you meet?
James, Kate, Abigail, and Joel.
Who was James, Kate, and Jill?
They're the family, the little girl.
Oh, yeah.
Abigail.
They're, full-time, RVers. He was explaining to me exactly what but it is some type of a religious support group, RVers for Christ, some kind of thing. I didn't understand, but yeah, they want to come, they're looking for places to serve, homeschooling the kids in the RV, and Joel is struggling with it. He's the oldest one,
The oldest teen.
and,
Yeah. Yeah, Leslie has a really good perspective on it because she had the opportunity today to take the teenagers, I believe, no, the father and,
No, I was with Silas, the 13-year-old. Ken knows about the 16-year-old that went out.
but Leslie took the 13-year-old to clean toilets all morning.
And he was excited.
Somebody else, who did you meet today?
Oh, I met Sean from Wisconsin.
No, man.
Matt, I'm sorry, Matt. I said Sean. Matt from Wisconsin. He is a ER nurse, and he had some PTO time to burn, and he's been serving with other organizations, but he found that Samaritan's Purse, he just needs to get here, and they cover everything else. And it's his first time serving, and he's a young guy, probably 30. He's married, and just really, and he helped look at Dolores's leg, and that was really like I'm going to share my God moment now, is the fact that here Dolores needed someone to care for her leg, and all she had to do was sit down, because Judy, who has been sitting in that same area all week, is a 40-year nurse. He shows up, and he is a ER nurse. Then we had this other lady sit down who is a volunteer, and she is a occupational therapist, and she was telling Dolores things that she needed to do for her leg. And I mean, God brought everybody to Dolores. All she had to do was sit there.
They thought they were coming for Samaritan's Purse, and they just came for you.
I mean, it really was me.
How cool is
Yeah.
that?
He loves you.
And Jill's from Wisconsin, so she probably knows.
I
this
know, that's what I said. Do you know Jill Hagan?
guy. Who else? Who'd you meet? I met Stacy, the young lady that let us in the house. I don't know how much you had a chance to talk to her, but my first conversation with her, she works in some kind of a medical practice somewhere. I don't know if she's a nurse. I don't know what she is, but the hope in her voice, when I talked, even before we met, just the hope in her voice. She had to get permission to leave, and she didn't put me on hold. I was overhearing her conversation with her supervisor, telling them that she needed to go home because of us showing up there, and it's one of those precious conversations that you wish you'd had a recorder sometime when you listen to these things, and to hear her describe her expectations of what you could offer is just absolutely off the chart amazing. And so, anyway, it was just really treasure. Anybody else? All right, let's go to number 6, because I know what your jobs were.
You know what mine was?
I didn't know what, that's
I got
why.
to de-stem grapes and cut up strawberries.
Good for you. Good for you.
I just had to share that.
That's amazing. No. We do appreciate that. Absolutely.
More than you know.
All right.
And here, I left stem for you.
Left some stems.
Full stems.
Yeah. Your God moments. What time is it?
Time for bed.
5 minutes of time.
5 minutes to 9?
Yep.
All right, God moments and we're done.
Mine was for you to allow me to get the Bible today.
Isn't that a special moment?
It was. I didn't do as well as everybody.
You did,
else.
you absolutely.
Yeah, you did.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Don't let the enemy tell you that. You did fabulous.
I don't have any enemies, I have other people.
No, the enemy.
You did a wonderful.
You did a great job.
Yeah, you did.
And,
And Gail has never seen it presented, so she doesn't know.
I know.
And Viv,
I felt as though I really wanted to sit down beside her and be at her
And she
level, and
cried
I
like a
felt like
baby.
I should have done that.
It is so cool that we can give
Yeah.
a Bible like that, that none of us, no matter what we do, we can't get one.
I'll burn your house down.
No. No, but I mean, it's, to have something that is,
that's a friend, that's a true friend. But see,
I'm moving my bunk next to him when we go upstairs.
but listen, think about this. Think about this.
Clean it up.
It burns down.
All
You can't
this
believe you
Bible
came out with that.
presentation happened after we had done all of this work. Everything she owned was on the truck, and that's what she wanted of us. But that did not bring her to tears.
Nope.
Right.
It wasn't getting the work done that brought her to tears. It was that special moment of presenting her the Bible. And it just melted her heart. And I know she was already grateful. It wasn't that, but when you saw her burst out in tears at the presentation of the Bible. This is powerful. Somebody else, your God moment.
Well, mine actually was, and I wasn't sure if the packing was kind of like a filler assignment this morning or something that needs to be done today or whatever. But here it is, we're just about to finish packing and the raindrops stop, the sun's trying to break out, we're getting ready to eat lunch and then go to another place. And I thought, Lord, I mean, I just thought that was really cool. The whole thing with the weather and when it's cool and nice, it makes me feel so much better and things like that. And it just, I mean, I just felt like I was there just kind of watching us and adjusting, you know, the times of the rain and the sun and everything. And that
Well,
really
here's
was
the
a good
backstory.
moment for me.
If we had not taken her stuff out today, tomorrow, her landlord would impound it and throw it away. She had until tomorrow to get the stuff out. And you know, they've hired contractors, they're moving in. I can't be sympathetic to them, but I understand their need. And they do have homeowners that are home renters that are just dilatory about getting out. And the deadline, absolute drop deadline was tomorrow, had we not done it. And so you not only saved her stuff for her, but you did a huge, huge thing. And Samaritan's Purse never does that, but she attends City Church, and they wanted to be a blessing to her, and they were. So, in fact, the reason that their truck is over here right now is because she called Samantha, and asked if we can bring it over here.
It's already gone.
Is it gone? Okay.
That's the one thing that we do for renters. We will move their things out of the home.
We've done that a few times, but when I asked Leroy about it, he said, we don't do this, we're just doing it for her. Not meaning that they never do it, he just said that it's not customary for them to do it, so that's what, but anyway, you did a huge thing. Somebody else, a God moment.
A God moment was I came out of the house to throw some things around, and I saw two women sitting by a woman who was with pressured talk and all of those things, and I'm like, oh God, she's high, and I don't want none of this, so I just walk away. And I said, you know, God choose who He wants to use, because I would not have had the patience.
Yeah.
And because I've worked in jail, have done prison ministry, and I have dealt with people who, once they start, oh yes, I know I should be doing this, I'm like, okay, I can't deal with that. Because I just felt like I would never get anywhere with her. But, you know, thank God I was not the one out there to deal with her. But that's a God moment for me, because He's showing me patience.
Yeah.
You have to have patience, and you don't write people off.
And that's the point I was making earlier. I'm more like that. What if she had encountered some of the rest of us first, it would have been a short conversation. And I don't mean that in a
Yes,
wrong way, it just
no
would have been,
question.
would have been a short
No
conversation. But you guys,
The
the hand of God was on you.
The ladies did it.
Yeah. Somebody else.
Riding over, to get the U-Haul, that was kind of the God moment, because one, we got to talk about her son, Patrick, and she got to share. But then also on a personal note, I've been asking God some things about Teen Challenge. She's like, oh, my son went to Teen Challenge, and then she also worked for Teen Challenge, so she got to share some things with me that I had been asking God about Teen Challenge.
What are the
So,
odds?
wow, but that was so neat, really.
And what are the odds? The reason that Kisa went with them to ride back over here is that guys, and we actually let it slip a little bit when you went to pick up the truck, but a guy is, an SP guy, SP shirt is never allowed to be in an environment alone with a woman.
Yes.
Right.
And it just didn't, it never even crossed my mind when you went to get the truck, but at the end of it, somebody said something, in fact, I think it was 13, it says, you know, you do know that anyway, and so Kisa went,
That was so
but so
cool.
it's just a random choice, hey, you go, and it happened to be, it just so happened,
No coincidence.
no coincidence, somebody else, what did, we need to go, somebody else, what did you have God moment? Anybody?
Mine was the homeowners that came tonight. When I was on Gary's team, when I was here the first time he helped, I had met him, had never met her. But just a month or so before the storm, him and his next door neighbor, hate would be probably not even a strong word, each other. They built this super tall fence because the homeowner that was there tonight thought that the neighbor had intentionally killed their beautiful azaleas. So the storm came, the fence blew down. They were out there and started talking, and he's like, why did you kill my azaleas? And the neighbor's like, well, I have no idea what you're talking about. And he's like, well, and started talking, and the neighbor goes, well, when I was putting my pool in, I dug the ditch, and then I put the chlorine in, and then he stopped and looked at it and he goes, oh my goodness, I killed your azaleas. But he had like no idea that this had happened. So I asked him, I'm like, how's that going? He's like, we're the best of friends. We each know each other's codes now to our homes. He comes over, you know, they don't live there, but they have a fire pit in the front. He's like, we roast marshmallows. He goes, now we invite other neighbors we didn't know before. And I just looked at him and he goes, yep, I know. And he even said to me, he goes, that was a God moment for me. I'm like, to build a fence and then to have the storm blow it down. And then they actually talk.
That is a spiritual analogy. God has blown a lot of fences down.
Yeah, and this time was.
All right, one more God moment. Anybody? One more, anybody?
There's one thing that hit me, Miss Gail. She had a bottle with coins.
Oh, yes.
And she put the coins in when she prayed for her son.
When she would find them on the
The
ground.
ground, she prayed for her son, she put them in the bottle, so she had a whole bottle of coins in her. It's something you know,
That was cool.
it was.
I made sure it was secured in the truck.
Yeah.
That's great. All right, we're gonna start right here. Your one word for the day.
And not loud, it's 9
Peaceful.
o'clock. It's 9
I'm sorry?
o'clock.
Peaceful.
Peaceful. Peaceful.
Gentleness.
Gentle. Iowa.
Appointments,
Upon.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
work.
Work. Done.
Rewarding.
Reward.
Amazing.
Amazing.
Perfect.
Perfect. Have a word that would describe this day? Good. Good.
Thankful.
Thank you. Great. Great. Awesome.
Educational.
Education.
Eventful.
Eventful. Fun.
Tiring.
Tiring. Reflective.
Easy.
Easy.
How
Yeah.
about you?
Easy. And mine was satisfying. Just so satisfying. Father, thank you for our time. Thank you for this team. I don't have any way to repay them for what they have done in my life, but I'm asking you to bless them abundantly because of the contribution they've made, not only to me, but to the kingdom and to the people we've been able to touch. Give them a good night's rest. And I thank you for it in Jesus' name. Amen. Wyatt,